Hey, hey, hey. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the cloud VPC. I'm going to go over that and just make sure that we know how to get into the cloud lab and create the VPC. And so ready to go. Let's do it. I'm going to go ahead and give you just I'm in here in the I'm actually live streaming this, so I'm in my other Google. Um, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and show you this Google and AWS Academy. So we'll get into the Learner Lab here. And now remember, if you ever need to reset your lab, you can use the reset link right there to do that. But just another tip while this is starting up. We're running on Vocarium right now, so I know that I'm actually creating that live instance and also streaming at the same time. So I'm curious to see how this is going to function in terms of being able to show you all of it and whether or not you'll receive my video in a timely manner. So let's see. While that's going on, okay, so interestingly enough, it's saying that YouTube is not getting enough video for my stream, so I may not want to do this way. But I'm curious. We'll see what happens. So you may get buffering, but my AWS lab is up, so I'm going to go ahead and start that. So one thing to remember, VPC is a virtual private cloud, right? This is the instance, and we generally want to create this VPC in order to segment our networks. So my VPC is going to be something that I go and create in terms of I make one, right? Then I go ahead and create subnets in that. Now these can be notice that here's something to notice about the IPs, right? So I could use this exact same IPv4 subnet here in order to create this VPC, and I can break that up into as many pieces as I want. I can create as many subnets out of that as I want. So remember, the VPC is the virtual private cloud entity. Okay, I'm going to show that right here. VPC is the enclosing entity. Now, once I make that VPC, remember what we found out is once we make it, we cannot migrate servers between that. We would have to create new instances. So what I'm going to do when I make my VPC is I'm going to make subnets to go along with it. All right, so I'm going to class out some subnets and actually build them out. Right, and I can build out as many as I want. Right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Right, and I can keep going. I could take out a subnet and build whatever I wanted. Maybe I wanted to have a 20 a slash 23, and I want to break it up into however many 23 networks I could do it. Right, and remember, each one of those 23 networks is 1024 IP addresses. I'm sorry, 512 IP addresses, right? Each one of the 23s, right? And so maybe I wanted to have a whole bunch of 24s, just say straight subnet 24s. I can build them in, but once they're assigned to that VPC, they're there in that list. And then I build routes in between, right? So all of the right when I look at on the left here on the VPC virtual private cloud, right? This is my enclosing entity, the VPC itself. The subnet's right inside there, right? And then I can create routes that go between the networks. And now notice I have internet gateways here, right? All of these devices are named. They're named gateways. And this was something that was created automatically, right? When I created my my actual subnet. Now I could go through and create more of these devices, but I don't. If I wanted to actually connect something here in my virtual private cloud, right, to an Amazon service, this is my endpoint service and where it goes. And what kind of endpoint service can I make, right? Any type of Amazon service. So notice when I create that endpoint, um, what type of Amazon Web Service do I want to connect it to, right? So that's the idea here. What, do I want to put it on? Maybe use an S3 storage bucket, right? Um, and I could create that. And then I'm going to set my VPC up to house that endpoint. I might want to assign it to a subnet. Matter of fact, I do. Right. Now, all of these particular subnets, the availability zones are there. The subnets are there inside that. So I can actually create that. Um, excuse me. I can create that subnet inside this. And I'm going to go ahead and create the endpoint. So at that point, I have basically a door into my VPC. Now what I don't have is I don't have a specific storage bucket that's assigned with this. I just have the endpoint established. So I would have to go over to my simple storage service, and I'm going to go ahead and go in here. And I'm going to create a bucket. And my bucket, this is object storage. So I'm just going to call it my bucket. I got the right availability zone. Notice I can block public access, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So as you can see, there are no there are no buckets with that name. I don't know why this is not working, unless it is another undocumented feature. Maybe it was because I used uppercase letters. I don't know. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it open and not encrypted. Uh, weird. There's clearly an issue here. Oh, that worked. Weird. I don't know why that actually worked. Okay. and the bucket name. Now remember, and this S3 storage is object storage. Right, so I have my account here. This is still tied into to me, right? Um, VPC ID. Let's see. So I cannot create a VPC access with the cloud. So what we're going to do is click learn more on that. So give us a way to actually see the AWS CLI. Notice a VPC command right here, right? So we could try going back to that, and I'm going to copy this and put it in a notepad real quick, and then we can actually edit it right here. We'll double check bucket. We'll go back and we'll look at the VPC. I'm going to go back to my endpoint where I have an endpoint created. I'm going to copy the VPC. Ooh. Let me go back to my VPC endpoint, and I think I have to use the ID on this bucket. This is a pretty important part of the buckets is that ooh, access point. That's what I want to do is create an access point for my bucket. But the problem is I cannot make that VPC. Let me copy it right here. Virtual private cloud endpoint. VPC ID must start with VPC. Right, so I've got to make sure that I have the right VPC ID. Oh, come on. Okay, we're going to make the endpoint in the right VPC. There we go. Okay. Okay, now we have access point. Let's see. An internal error. Sometimes that happens here in this lab environment, right? Because it doesn't know. Uh, in this case, it actually did create um, the access point for the bucket. So what we'll do is we'll go back and actually check out. Let's see, that was not old. That was an old error. Okay, we'll go to S3 buckets. Here's my storage bucket. This is my object storage. Here's an access point. Now I've actually created an access point for that object storage inside my VPC. And what happens is if I go in there and I actually access it through that VPC, I'm only going to have access to this, whatever's in this bucket. Now I could dump whatever objects I want to in here, right? Um, and I could probably go ahead and uh, send something over. We'll go ahead and put a I don't know, what's this text document? Let's see. Let's just put this text document in there. Save as. I'm going to put it in my temp folder. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to upload it. Okay, so now I have what I've done is I've uploaded this file into the bucket, and it actually has a it has an ID, right? It has so I'm going to be able to see the metadata that's here. Right, so I'm still not seeing the file yet, right? Have a URL to this. So here's my bucket, right? Now notice that this is, when I create the storage bucket, I'm creating it and it's actually out there for anybody to see, although I've turned public access off. So if I were to try and go to this URL, and I'm going to go ahead and to it here, I should get, yeah, I got an error, right? The XML does not appear to have any style information associated with it. Document is shown, right? It's an error, right? This is an XML raw error, access denied, right? So, and you may think, oh, okay, why didn't it just show a regular page? Well, the idea is if it, it's like, why didn't it show that page? Well, what better way to do it than just to put it out there, put that error message out there so that it can be read by a parser, right? A human being can read that parse message just as easily as a computer can. So I'm not going to waste their time generating a whole bunch of visual crap, right, on the window. So anyway, the point is, I got an access error on that. I can't get to it. Okay, but if I'm going through my VPC endpoint, I should be able to see this. So what would happen is that if I had a server that was in this in this domain, and I probably do have one available here. So I got my file uploaded into my S3 bucket. It has the URL. Um, if I am in, if I'm inside my VPC endpoint, right, which is where this device was created, I should be able to get to it, but only from an endpoint that's inside this VPC because I've disabled public access to it, but I should still be able to get there. So we're going to look at this VPC real quick, and let's see. Let's see. I'm going to probably need to create. Let's see. Let me go back and check out the VPC that this bucket actually got made into. VPCE. Okay, my VPC ID for this bucket. Right here. So I just want to make sure that I have an instance spooled up inside this bucket. And I don't think I do, but I'm going to make one real quick. Let's see where Pinky is. Nope, it's a different one. Okay. We're going to make now the trick in here is that if I don't know what instance I have spooled up my VPC, if I don't know what subnet is in my VPC, I need to find out. Okay, we're going to double check. We're going to double check what subnet. Alright, so the subnet I can use to create this is the VPC test subnet. Right, so it's going to be, because the IP addresses are the same on the two subnets, I have to go ahead and, in my instance, that's my storage bucket, okay. EC2. I'm going to use my same my same key, right, to access this particular ticket. I think I have that key somewhere. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and turn this thing on. And oh, I gotta make sure that I choose the right VPC. I see this needs to be changed because I don't want to spool it up into this VPC. I want to go ahead and spool it up into this VPC. I don't really care what subnet it goes into at this point. All right, that'll work. Okay. Now that that instance has come up, sometimes you gotta refresh this. Uh, I don't have. Okay, refresh. Now, there we go. Okay, so here's my bucket, and I'm gonna go ahead and connect to it. I can't do that. I've gotta assign a public IP to this thing. Shoot. And this is another good reason to uh, to use the console, because once I get everything established of how I want to turn things on and off, it's much easier to spool things up, turn them on and off. Right? Okay. Okay. So we're gonna go make a new elastic IP address. Or what I could do is I could just go ahead and assign this particular. Let's see, project EIP. Oh, okay, so the problem could be that I have a different. Let's see, network interface is 3D. Okay, yeah. The problem is this is a different VPC, right? So I've got to create a network interface in the VPC that I want. I'm going to call it bucket interface. This should be it right here. Yeah, I'm going to choose a default security group. I don't. Okay, so now I can go to this interface. Let's go ahead and allocate. Alright, so here's the one I just allocated. One thing about naming is you definitely want to um, you want to name your resources so that they can be remembered, right? Which one you have. So, um, okay. All right. Now that I have that elastic IP, I'm going to go and assign it. Well, the real thing I would do is if I were allocating resources here in this system, and I'm not always going to be doing this by the GUI. I'm going to be doing it by command prompt in a lot of cases. Right? Okay. So remember that the IP addresses and the network interfaces that those IP addresses are assigned to are completely different. So I'm going to go ahead and make uh, a network interface. Oh, what's the wrong? Dadgum VPC ID. A bucket is created in VPC ID ending in alpha 1, alpha 2. I have to, because I have that bucket endpoint attached to or allowed access to this VPC, I have to access it through this resources created on this VPC. The trick is when I'm creating an interface, I have to use the right subnet in order to attach that interface. Let's see. Here we go. We're going to associate. I'm just going to go ahead and attach this to my test bucket server. Okay, there we go. So now I should be able to go back to my instance, test bucket. Now I have this elastic IP address associated with it. I'm going to connect. Okay. Now, what I should be able to do now, if this works right, is actually retrieve this file. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Oh, that's good. Access denied. Shoot. Obviously, it's not going to work. It gave me a little bit of an a different error message when I used curl versus wget. Um, but curl is giving me the actual code that was embedded in my HTTP response, and wget is giving me the status messages as you would see in a log. So I don't know why this is not working unless I accessed it using the wrong network ID. So we'll keep this one open. Here's my bucket. It's accessed in the same VPC. It says it's forbidden. Maybe that's the problem. I gotta give myself permission. Block all public access. We'll still have this access point. Eh, not working. Okay, back to the drawing board. We'll figure out why it's not working. Sometimes it's like that. Uh, that's IT. You gotta work around problems that come up, and we'll just see what we can do to find that out. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the live stream. I'll figure it out and show you what to do.